on how long this tower lasts.
It looks pretty stable for us, so as long as we aren't shaking the table, it should be fine.
It's be very impressive. All right.
Yeah.
Anyways,
Are we
we're
started?
here.
Oh,
This is
okay.
Hit Play. Yeah,
So,
we've been here. That was a good intro. That's my
that
intro.
was terrible.
We're here with Connor, who has
Hi,
decided
you guys
to
remember me?
return. Very handsome man. Anyways, we watched the new Dungeons and Dragons. Or I guess the only Dungeons and Dragons movie. Is there more than one?
There's one other, but we don't talk about that one.
Why don't we talk about that one?
Because it was bad.
Yeah? Is it like
It was
late
real
90s?
bad.
When was it? Oh god, look at that Rotten Tomatoes score.
Yeah. It's kind of like the first Mario Brothers movie where it was live action. We don't talk about that one either.
That's so funny.
It's crazy how it works.
Anyways, so we watched this last night, and
It's a good film.
I guess when this comes out, it'll have been 2 nights ago. But
Oh, is this going up tomorrow?
Connor, sure, yeah, I don't know.
Sick. Sorry, continue.
Connor, before we begin talking about the actual movie,
Uh-huh.
what was your, I guess, expectations or like thought process of why they made another Dungeons and Dragons movies?
Okay, so 5e, the current edition of Dungeons and Dragons,
Correct.
is massive comparatively, right?
Right.
I know that you guys haven't played any other editions before, but none of the others are this big. The audience that Dungeons and Dragons has picked up over the last 6 years
Shout out Matthew Mercer.
has been incredible. And so, our good friends Hasbro, great people, love them to death. I still remember the
I
OG.
thought we don't hate him. I thought we do hate him.
They saw money signs,
Yeah.
and they made it work.
Oh, easy.
So expectations going in, I expected this to not suck, but to not be good.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I was pleasantly surprised. I had a
Yeah.
really good time with it.
It was pretty funny.
It was really,
I
it was
would-
really goddamn funny.
I think it was in the same boat. I saw that there was a trailer, and I was like, WTF? How do you make a Dungeons and Dragons movie?
Well,
And then I saw the trailer, and I was like, you know what? James. I spent like the past 3 months, breaking down James to the point where he told me on like, I forgot it was like Saturday or Sunday. He's just like, hey, do you want to go watch the Dungeons and Dragons for the pod?
James,
And I
is
was
this
like-
true? Here, take the mic.
Yes.
I had no interest in seeing this. I saw it as a cash grab, and knowing Hasbro and their history with licensed material, I had no reason to believe otherwise. I knew somebody who ended up seeing it and said that it was very good and very funny, and I trusted their judgment, so I caved. Honestly, best case scenario, I was hoping that this would be like the Lego movie, which is,
Yeah,
I think
that's
a
what
very
I was
good
going to,
adaptation
too.
of licensed material, taking what people love about it and dramatizing that. The inclusion of the live action Will Ferrell moments. I really thought that they would do something similar,
I'm really glad they did it.
where it would be like they would end the movie with people sitting around a table being like, all right, good session, guys. See you next time.
See you guys in 2 months.
This is an entirely in-universe movie. There is no acknowledgement of human players sitting around the table controlling the game.
Was that a good thing or a bad thing?
It ended up being, while I would have liked the inclusion of something like that, just because I think it's funny,
Yeah.
it's solid without it, I would say.
Yeah, and that was also something that I'm like, I agree with James. I do wish that they had just panned up afterwards, and it would have been like, "What do you guys think?" Like kind of deal. Like, but the fact that it is all in universe was really cool. Also because of how many like nods to the universe there was. You two wouldn't know this because you guys don't pay attention to lore. Every location that they talk about in the film is a legitimate location.
I
in the
imagined
Forgotten
as
Realms
much.
media.
Yeah.
Lore or whatever. I mean, you should know the name Baldur's Gate. You've probably heard about the game, right?
Yeah, I did hear
The
about
actual
the game.
thing in
The
Forgotten
Sword Coast is one
Yeah,
of the
Sword Coast,
campaigns
yep.
or something like that.
Realms. Neverwinter's a big area. Also a game in Neverwinter. The Red Wizards of Thay. You guys have encountered the Red Wizards of Thay.
I don't remember
actually.
this.
I know you won't, but
When
one
was
of
this?
One of their campaigns, they encountered a red wizard. Do you remember the lady that was floating on the rock in the old campaign?
Oh God.
Yeah, I remember her. Yeah, she was a red wizard. She was a lich. That was going to be a plot point that never came up.
For anybody keeping track of hit play lore, the map on the back wall that you see is from a D&D campaign that we canceled.
You are more than welcome to take it
We'll
back.
take it back, yeah.
Fun times.
it's my
Fun
map.
times. Fun times.
But yeah, so when they were like bringing up red wizards, I was like, oh, I wonder if either one of them is gonna be like, oh, I remember that. And I knew you weren't going to, but I thought I was excited.
To be
I mentioned it
fair,
once.
I was really, really intoxicated almost every other session. So, as far as like lore that wasn't pertaining to my characters, I just don't recall.
First time players, am I right?
Hey man, at least I know how to throw an attack die. At least I know how to do an attack roll.
All right, so let's break this down piece by piece like we always do. In terms of inclusion of Dungeons and Dragons in this film, the lore of the universe. Because obviously, I think when I first heard this movie, part of what made me hesitant was the idea that not every campaign pulls strictly from lore given to you.
Yeah.
And so how they would fit those elements in together. As a dungeon master, how do you feel they pulled that off?
Wow, using my full title. I feel fancy. This is the first time you ever
That's a
actually
Mr.
admitted
Dungeon
that
Master.
You can call me God.
Oh God, here we go.
I thought it was great. Mainly because it is established fiction. Obviously, the Forgotten Realms has existed for ages. There's a ton of information about them in various 5e things and stuff. The book, that campaign was Forgotten Realms.
Nice.
So like, it's a good way to introduce new players without them having to make their own stuff, because
Yeah.
that's a huge blocking in other D&Ds. It's like, oh, you got to make up all the whole world, and it's like that's a lot of work. So I thought that was really cool. The monsters and stuff obviously are very like peak D&D.
Did you pick up what they were like immediately? Or did it take you a
Yeah.
while?
What do you mean? But did it take me a while? What did you take me for? I read the monster manual for fun. Of course I knew what they were. I should be asking you that. Do you know what the displacer beast is?
No.
Yeah, I thought.
We haven't fought one yet.
It's the most iconic D&D monster outside of the dragons. Everybody knows what a displacer. Well, not everybody. I'm being a nerd, but yeah, like this the overall lore of it was very cool because it's established, and I like to see them do stuff with the established lore. And then it makes it easier for introducing other people to that. If you're bringing in your friends who've never played D&D before, and you're like, here's what it's like, it's actually what it's like, because you can do what they did in the game without much work on your side.
Yeah, piggybacking off of that,
Oh God, here we go.
as somebody who is a novice at Dungeons and Dragons, as somebody who is very bad at Dungeons and Dragons, but has played frequently, the inclusion of established D&D lore is neither ham-fisted in, nor is it over-explained. It's very much just like casual fantasy. I feel like if you're not a D&D player and you see this movie, it would be no different from, say, seeing Lord of the Rings for the first time.
Yeah.
Because it's just given to you. All the suspension of disbelief is there. There's no over-explaining anything. And so it doesn't come across like a dungeon master trying to explain something to...
Or like you're missing out on something.
Yeah, there's no element of like you have to have played the games to understand what any plot device is in this film. And I think that's cool.
Yeah. It makes it more. It makes it.
What a way to end that
It
statement,
makes
James.
it more. Like, you become more engaged. Yeah, immersive. There you go. Lack of a better word, because it's just literally like. Because I heard Neverwinter and I was like, yeah, that sounds like a D&D place. Like,
Yeah, that's
sure.
fantasy. You know, they said somebody was a sorcerer. You're like, I know what those are. I watched the Mickey Mouse short.
If these fantasy universes really like putting adjectives in front of a like season,
Could you not call us out like that?
like ever summer,
Also, a
long-
proper noun and a
long-
proper noun.
long
Sword Coast.
spring. It's like, okay, yeah, that sounds like a settlement. in this place.
I don't have a comeback.
That's
Am I wrong though?
All right, so let's move on to the cast. The only, what was that?
I said I'm not gonna be able to talk about this when you guys have fun.
Well, not necessarily cast, but just the acting in general. I only knew Chris Pine was going to be in this movie. I actually didn't see a single trailer for this. So based off of who is in this film, because oddly enough, for what appears to be a cash grab on Hasbro's part, there's a lot of pretty well-established actors
Yeah.
in this film.
Yeah.
Some of whom aren't, they pull a Guy Pearce.
Just pop out of nowhere.
Yeah, it just popped out of nowhere in this movie. Well, I'll let you begin with that one. How
We
would you-
call that call it pulling a Matt Damon.
Oh yeah, because in Interstellar, we never want to spoil that.
Spoiler for Interstellar, by the way.
Spoiler for Interstellar. It's Guy Pearce the whole time.
It's interesting because all these are established actors, like you say. Good is a vague term.
Chris Pine is pretty much a franchise
but-
guy. That's all he does.
Yeah, and he plays like two characters. I feel like his character in Wonder Woman is the same exact character as this one.
Yeah.
Except in this one, he's playing a flute or the lute instead of driving planes or flying planes. I mean, I don't know. I'm not
confuse a flute
I'm
with
not
a
a
lute?
musical expert.
You're not a bard. That's
yeah.
right. He plays marshals. Anyway, James, you can have this back.
But it's I don't know. I didn't really like put too much stock in anybody's acting.
Yeah.
Just because I'd be like, yo, that's the comedic relief character, and then there's the straight edge to balance them out.
Yeah.
And it's like, I will say this though, each of the characters are different to a degree, which you would obviously be like, oh, of course, that's like, it's like when you're making a Dungeons and Dragon movie, I feel like characters are not the biggest thing. Which is funny because when you play an actual session, that's usually how it goes.
Yeah.
Everybody is so unique in how they tackle character and character creation.
that was actually something that I was worried about
Yeah.
going into this because I was like, I'm willing to put money down that it's going to be every character is going to be a Marvel wisecracking
Yeah.
piece of crap, right? I'm like, great, they're all going to be like quick-witted, exciting, and whatever, and I'm like, this is going to get boring super fast.
They're all humans, human fighters.
And they weren't like the fact that there wasn't a fighter at all, which is shocking because if anybody's played D&D, there's always a fighter.
There's always a
I'm looking
fighter.
at you. There's never not a fighter. There's never not a human fighter.
No, I'm a dragonborn.
Yeah, and this is Dragon.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, you're a human. But it was the fact that each of the characters were their archetype while also being different. Like the barbarian was dumb,
Yeah.
but not in a way they're like her, hit stick. Like she was just like not intelligent.
Yeah.
But she still was able to like have banter in the way that non-intelligent creatures should be having banter. I know that sounds really harsh, but we're talking in game terms. like I'm not talking about humans. I'm talking about.
Is
fictional
Connor
beings.
attacking Michelle Rodriguez?
I'm sure she's a very smart individual. This is acting chops.
She can't be that smart. She's in the Fast and Furious movies.
No, I would argue that makes her very smart. She's making a lot of money for doing it.
I guess.
Like the druid. While, I mean, not having a ton of effect on the film outside of Wild Shape, I felt like she had like wise statements, and druids are wisdom casters.
Yeah.
That's kind of the whole point. So like as a dungeon master, as a player, I felt like they did the archetypes justice without making them just like heard of
caricatures
superheroes. Yeah, caricatures
of-
kind of deal. The fact that the bard, the main character is a bard. It's never fully established, but he plays music and is the face, so he's the bard. But he does bardic inspiration throughout the entire film, and it's never actually mentioned, unless you really like stop and think about it. And I think that's really
shit! Ah, I get it now.
Did that?
That just hit me.
Yeah,
Nice.
Yeah, every time he talks them up,
Yeah.
that's bardic inspiration.
Yeah. That's funny.
It's super cool to think about. Like
That's so
retrospect, like,
funny.
oh, that's awesome. I don't know if that was
Doesn't do have
intentional.
any spells though.
He does not do spells. I think that was probably just to make it so they're not too muddied, because otherwise that would have been 3 casters and a single marshal. Those fights would have gone a lot different.
They
but
made
that's
it,
for
they
later.
made him a bard fighter crossover.
Yeah, like we could talk about the. He's called just swords. But I was like, we could talk about the party composition later, but actors right now.
That's what I was saying. I was like, cool, paladin. Where's the shield at? And then he just pulls out a single longsword, and I was like, what is going on?
Paladins don't need to have shields. It's a common misconception. Anyway,
It's called role playing, Connor.
I mean, you start with the shield anyway.
Yeah. Oh, there we go. What was the time? Do we have a timer going?
no, but it's been like 15 minutes. I think
At least we'll look it back.
we'll run it back.
All right,
Forward.
natural 20 out of 14.
Nice, good one.
All right.
Not pass.
I'll say this about the actual acting in this film. While I think that all the archetypes of the characters are they fill the roles that they need to in a fantasy adventure story. In terms of the acting itself, there were a few times where it felt really stiff and one-dimensional, but I forgave it immediately because I'm like, they're not doing this on purpose, but people playing D&D in real life.
Yeah.
They're not professional actors, so they will come across stilted and awkward. And so when there was a line reading or somebody said like a bit of dialogue that was just super unnatural, I'm like, that's kind of like D&D.
You have a lot of experience with that one, don't you?
Not role playing whatsoever.
Just flash to Rebecca. Oh shit! At any point that's like emotional at all.
Just Rebecca.
Any point there's like dramatic tension. Just oh shit. Yeah, that's about accurate. I don't think the creators were like, yo, act wooded and stilted because you're
Yeah.
like it's a meta
No,
take.
no.
But I think it's like it's a weird thing where it's not completely meta because because it's a self-contained story in its own universe, but it's also based off of a game, so it's like this weird like quasi like fourth wall breaking.
Because just like my
thing.
experience of playing the game informs the way that I see the film, so I immediately forgave stilted and wooden dialogue because it felt like D&D.
It happens.
Next time I get on you guys for not role playing enough, I'm just gonna come back to this episode. I'm gonna replay that clip just to really remember myself that yes, you think bad role playing is a part of the game. It is, but
We just don't do it.
It kind of makes it makes it fun, right? Just to be like, yo, here's the sword. Oh shit!
All right, party composition.
All right,
Do you
yeah,
have any
go
grasp
on the
of
party composition. I'll tell you right now, there's no ranger. Where the hell is the ranger?
None of them were assholes.
That's also true. There were no people who were just like, I'm gonna steal
How
this.
could I relate to people playing D&D if nobody was a piece of shit the entire time?
That's a good point. No,
Okay.
there needs to be that one party member that's just hammered the entire time.
So I hate to be the bearer of bad news, guys, but the way that we play D&D is not the way that the collective plays D&D. In terms of like, are we talking party composition as in like how the actors bounced off each other, or just like actual game mechanics?
Game
Okay,
mechanics.
you passed the mic to me, but I wanted to be sure. In case anybody knows it, I don't know crap about how to make movies, so they're just here. I'm here to bring.
We
the
don't know how
D&D
crap to
side of
make
things.
movies either.
So in terms of mechanics of the game, I was actually really impressed that the party composition was not human fighter, cleric, wizard, rogue. It was, a bard.
Yeah.
It was a druid. It was a barbarian.
It's
and
the
a sorcerer.
underused.
It was classes you don't see a whole
classes.
lot in media.
Yeah.
And
Especially sorcerer, not a wizard. That's just like one of those little like pedantic changes where it's like if he was a wizard, it would feel too like generic fantasy. But a sorcerer sounds cooler. You laugh, but unironically, I guarantee that was a conversation they had.
I know exactly what you mean, and the way you phrased it was just very funny.
You know for a fact that there was one person pre-production who was like, "Yeah, but if he was a wizard, he'd have to prepare his spells."
They went, guys, wild magic surges are really funny, so we can definitely work one of those in. Because if you noticed, within the first 5 minutes that the sorcerer's like actually on screen, not like the backstory, as they're like actually introducing him, he has a wild magic surge almost immediately. And I was like, they knew what they were doing. Yeah. That he is here for that.
They should have done the
else.
wizard just for like the montage of him just sitting with his spell book writing the spell for a whole short rest.
That is They didn't have the druid casting spells because she's also a prepared caster, and I didn't see any kind of list on that.
All she did was wild shape.
But no,
Weird.
I really enjoyed that. One, it
Underutilized.
was an actual composition. You had the party tank, so the barbarian, the muscle, etc.
The support.
You had high damage dealer, which is a sorcerer, and then you had 2 support characters.
Yeah.
And both of those support characters were the like damage support characters versus like the true support, like a cleric. Although anybody who's played 5e knows that clerics are the scariest thing in the game. And I really like that. I like that it was a composition that you would see a lot of newbies do, because a lot of newbies with a DM will be like, "What do we play?" And the DM's like, "Have a healer, have somebody beefy to take hits, have this and stuff," because it's the safest way to go through these games. It's the reason why every MMO has a tank and a dedicated healer and then 2 DPSs and any kind of 4-man content, because that's safe.
Whereas us were like 4 attacks. And then we had to bully Rebecca into becoming a healer.
I think it's more fun when the party isn't balanced, but
I had a good time.
assuming that the objective of this film, besides making money, was to introduce people to this medium so that they could start playing the game and make money. I think it was a really good way to introduce people. You get a wide variety. You get casters, you get physical dealers, you get the face. Because a lot of people don't know that about D&D.
The basic structure of here's a quest, go do this. Here's your reward at the end of the quest.
Yeah, they had that too. But it really shocks a lot of people, because it shocked you guys. And we had a whole conversation about this. You have to role play in the role playing game. So there needs to be a party face. It doesn't have to be one
Role-play.
person, but you're gonna have to talk to the NPCs. And so that was really nice to see a party face, so to speak. So the composition was good. Anything, James, you want to add to this? No?
Do you think it did a good job introducing new characters or new people to the game? If, let's say, some 15-year-old kids walking in the theaters, it's like, oh shit, I want to play D&D now.
So do you want me to start on this rant now, or should we save this?
Let's move on to special effects.
Very average.
Yes. All right.
There were
Now
some
it's-
scenes where I was like, yo, this is cool. And then it was like, okay. When they're in the graveyard, I was like, this is clearly a green screen.
There is a specific scene with a high-profile cast member who is not listed anywhere. With a Guy Pearce, and
Our boy Guy Pearce.
they clearly don't do the Lord of the Rings forced perspective on this character.
It's so bad.
It's very clearly he's just like
It's so bad.
put in afterwards, and it really looks awkward. But at least they get their eyesight, their eye lines are correct at the very least. It's just any 2-shot is just not that good, really, honestly.
Lord of the Rings, this is not. Let's
Yeah,
just say
Lord of
it
the Rings,
far.
this is not.
This is definitely not gonna age well in like 2 years.
Yeah, the when they're in the underworld, whatever it's called, Underdark.
Speaking of which, is that where the gray elves come from? The dark elves?
Yes, kind of.
That's what I thought.
I think in the Forgotten Realms, yes. I don't think they're necessarily only based in the Underdark. But a vast majority of Drow live in the Underdark.
I was just curious.
When they're in the Underdark, the dragon looks pretty good, I think.
Yeah.
That whole scene, all the like environments look really cool. They have the advantage that Lord of the Rings did not have in that because this is not an established world. There are so many times where they're traveling between places, and they're like, all right, we can just have a shot of them like going left to right behind the volcano, and then they go left to right behind like a cornfield, and then left to right behind like a waterfall. Put them together. Nobody will know the difference. Nobody will know these are different locations.
So about that, actually, they did, yeah. Because I was something I found today when I was doing my own research. Is apparently the route that they take is geographically correct.
Nice.
Which I thought was really cool.
That's pretty cool.
I know about the Forgotten Realms. I haven't played on the map.
Yeah.
The actual like map that they were probably using is massive. I don't have it all memorized, but yeah, like everything that you see, that volcano is an actual volcano in the world. Yeah, it's really
Nice.
cool. I like the practical effects.
Is it the Peaks of Flame?
It's not that map.
I know.
Practical effects. Yes, I'm going to steal this point from you.
Yeah, I just wanted to set you up.
All of the what would be the word for it? Non-human races. I was going to say beasts, but I'm sure that has a different connotation.
That's a little bit of a slur.
I was going to say in the context of D&D, that might not be the
James
right word.
commits a hate crime.
But the actual like costumes, they're not like they didn't cats this where it's all CGI
Yeah.
over human bodies. They're actual like wearing fursuits.
They look kind of good, actually.
Yeah.
For a Hasbro movie.
I really got to give them the credit. The tabaxis were a really easy way to have some furry bait, and they didn't go for it, and I'm really proud of them for that. The one tabaxi that shows up actually looks like a cat person and not a human trying to be a cat, which was nice. Continue.
This is a family podcast, Connor. Don't bring furries. I wasn't.
You can cut it out.
The furry bait, Jesus Christ. Oh, God.
What you should have said, I shouldn't have said that.
It doesn't matter. Who cares?
All right. So outside.
What
of
about the
that-
fight scenes?
The fight scenes. Yes, that's true.
I thought they were pretty. Well, okay. In the context of the game mechanics, where it's literally, hiya, wait 5 minutes, hiya, star, dash.
Well, no, I was actually gonna say that I really enjoyed the fight scenes. I got excited because I was like, oh, I can actually talk about this.
Yeah.
Because I understand some little bits about fight choreography. James, I think, just thought that I was gonna ream into it. In terms of actual fight choreography, obviously, it was nothing like what happens in the game unless you have a really active imagination.
Yeah.
You know, you kind of have to fill in the holes in the game, like Isaac said. Otherwise, it's just whack, which is dumb.
By the way, that's not how I interpret mine. Mine are always cool.
I was gonna say, yeah, you pick up a lot.
That's how I interpret mine.
We know, buddy. What I really enjoy about the fight choreography, you had the main antagonist was a high level, like a not ninth level, like a 20th level wizard, or at least up there. She cast a 9th level spell slot.
The Red Wizard.
The Wood Wizard, yeah.
Yeah.
She was a high level caster,
Right.
and then you had a sorcerer, right? There was only one magic fight at the entire film. That was awesome. Like,
Because they knew.
because they knew, like,
They knew that this is not possible.
well, they knew that, like, in terms of, like, because you guys have never gotten here, and I don't mean that as a slight. I just mean like as a genuine, like, you just haven't gotten there. High level D&D becomes casters slapping at each other while the marshals hang out, and it sucks, but it is what it is. It's just how the 5th edition is made. Casters are incredibly powerful.
Yeah.
Marshals can't do anything unless the casters buff them. So I was really worried that it was going to be a bunch of, like, watching the barbarian, like, run at the wizard and get, oh, and then, you know, the casters were going to fling stuff at each other. And the fact that it only happened once was really good. This game made me excited to play a marshal, despite the fact knowing that I could never do anything that barbarian does in the film. Because those fights, that stuff that she does, perfection.
It was really legible at the very least.
Yeah.
For like a commercial fantasy adventure, you always think that the fight is going to be, because we just saw John Wick, which is like the love and
Super
care they
crisp.
put into the fight scene, you know. And so like
It's
to
like,
go
don't
from
you
that,
dare move that goddamn camera.
Yeah.
I'll kill you. It's like, whoa, Chad, relax.
whereas like for this one, it was surprisingly like
Polished.
yeah, polished is actually a far better word because I had no word I could think of to say.
That's what I was thinking too. The fight scene with Michelle, where she's fighting the barbarian, where she's fighting in like the forge area when they first get to the castle. At the end, I was like,
I was getting like Will Turner versus
this like-
Johnny Depp.
actually like good fight sequence in my Paramount movie. Does Paramount know how to do this? If it's not Tom Cruise, is
Where's
this like
Paramount
allowed?
in this one? Yeah.
But yeah, and then the final sequence, there's like a 5-second bit where they all rush the final boss,
like Jack the Wizard. Yeah.
and then they're all like jumping over each other and like doing. I was like,
it was like cool.
am I watching like Teen Titans in Cartoon Network? Like this is amazing. This is high level.
The other thing too that was really cool was this technically falls under fight choreography was the druid choreography. The way that she slipped in and out of wild shapes was done really well.
One take,
From visual effects, but also just like in terms of how that would look in that sequence.
all one take.
That one take was sick. But just like, like how that flows and stuff, watching her shift forms and watching how the people reacted to it and stuff, that was really cool. As like,
Not possible in the mechanics of the game, by the way.
oh no, we'll get to that
They
later.
took a big. I noticed that too, and I was like, "Wait a minute, that's 2 shifts in 24 hours. What the hell?"
Remember how I said we could start on that rant whenever you want? Yeah, no, that's on the rant.
We'll get there.
But
We'll
that's
get
just
there.
being pedantic. But no, it was really cool. Like just like
Yeah.
like the first sequence where she goes from being the horse to the owlbear, and then just like when she jumps and she morphs from the owlbear to the person. You can technically do that in game.
Right. I mean,
And that was
sure.
really good, like set of choreography. Every form that she took fought in the way that form should fight, which was really cool because a lot of people who play druids take a new form and then they don't change how they act. James, anything to add?
He's not saying that about me. I've never played a druid.
This is why I don't play as a druid. It's definitely like, yeah.
I have some bad druid memories.
No, I mean I don't. The Forge fight scene really reminded me of Pirates of the Caribbean.
Will versus
Turner meets
classic
yeah.
movies.
But outside of that, that the ending fight scene, the climactic fight scene, was very well done. Surprisingly,
Yeah.
honestly, just surprisingly, like better than I would have expected, given the type of movie that I feel like this audience
That we were watching.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That being said, though, in terms of the actual overall story of this film, the actual ending.
I did your favorite thing
Oh yeah.
where the characters turn around. I saw it coming
Yeah.
from a mile away. I was like, why are they getting on this boat?
No, when they got on the boat, I was like, they have to go back. I don't know if you know this. I have a very personal gripe. In storytelling, this is just 100% like a storytelling device that I personally don't like.
It's a good story.
I do not enjoy
Lesson.
it in any story when the characters turn around physically or just like turning back on something like an idea or a promise or something like that. But I mean like literally, like if a character is going in one direction and then they're like, actually the thing that we need is behind us, and then they have to turn around, I'm like, what happened to all that progress? I know that you're gonna have something to say about that, but I am yet to find the case where I feel like this is
Dark Souls 3?
Okay, well,
I don't know.
The case is called comedic timing.
No, but
Incorrect answer.
yeah,
Thank you. Try again.
there is still not a case in which this is correct.
One of us went to film school.
Yeah. Honestly, that wasn't really that big of a deal for me because you see it coming, and it's like it's built into the character.
It's also just classic D&D, right? Where
Yeah.
it's like, all right, we're going this way. Wait, shit, we forgot to
We
do
have
the
to
one
go
thing.
over there.
That being said, unironically, as a form of like classic D&D, I expect them to turn around, see the wizard doing the wizard thing, and be like, fuck that.
There
Or we
are,
could just not.
yeah. There are definitely plenty of moments where, like, the idea of having the kind of endearably stupid character works in their advantage from our experience playing and also watching D&D, where it's like, yeah, when you get a group of people together and they have one goal, they're gonna ignore that thing over there, and it's like you can make a joke out of that when you're making a movie, but like that's how people play the game.
Yeah.
Okay.
It would also have been funny if they were like, she's level 20. You guys just want to go like do a bunch of quests before we come back. Roll credits.
There were so many times in this movie where I'm like, in our campaign, we wouldn't have done that. It would have come around and bite us in the ass, but nevertheless.
And it will. Oh,
Like we would have definitely tried to storm the castle, just straight up.
that actually,
Like the whole like, let's use the portal gun to do this, or let's also
Oh.
do this. It's like, no, we would have just gone in there.
I expected them when they did the turnaround. I thought they were setting up for like a sequel. As I was
Yeah,
like,
I
I
thought
thought
that
it already
too.
been like the runtime, and I was like, oh, okay, so they're gonna like turn around. She's gonna take over Neverwinter, and the next movie is gonna be returning to take back Neverwinter.
Return of the King.
So I was genuinely like, I'm not gonna say happily surprised when they were like, we're gonna go fight the wizard, because I was like, meh.
Yeah.
It's what heroes do. They go and fight the wizards, but also would have been way more like a funny player to have them just stay floating on the boat all the way back.
Well, what do you guys want to do next?
Yeah, they got everything they want. They have riches. They have their
Yeah.
The man, I mean, like it would have been a whole thing.
They beat the man. They got the daughter.
Yeah.
Which is really
Forge
all they
would've gotten
set
his
out
ass
to
handed
do.
to him.
Yeah.
Quest accomplished.
That's just Hollywood. Hollywoody ruining my games.
Film wraps up pretty nicely. Honestly, I think
Sets up nice for sequels. Well, I mean, D&D just in general is just set up for sequels. So
all right. So before we get into personal gripes and rants that we might have about this film and the D&D community and Hasbro, which we all have,
yeah,
how would you rank this film? Honestly,
I'd give it a B tier.
B tier. I would say as a, irregardless of whatever you think about D&D, like as a game to play, this is just a surprisingly solid fantasy action.
Wasn't too long.
Wasn't
Didn't
wasn't
feel at
long
least
at
it
all.
didn't feel like it was too long.
Pretty funny, honestly.
Yeah, I was surprised how funny it was.
My biggest frame for reference for this film was the live action. What was it? It was the. There was a fantasy film with like Christian Stewart a handful of years ago. It was like not Snow White
Yeah,
or something. like
the
that.
Huntsman
It was the Huntsman.
Yeah.
yeah.
with
Where I'm just like,
with Thor. I
Yeah.
think Thor was in it.
I'm like, whenever there's just like an independent, standalone fantasy film, I'm like, honestly, that's like the reverse bar. Like that's as low as you can possibly get, with like the Hobbit films being like. Honestly, those are pretty bad too.
I was gonna say, where are you going with
Where
this?
it's like fantasy films have a really bad time living up to Lord of the Rings, because they're
Yeah.
they're either trying to be as epic as that, they always fail, or they try to just be like spoof, like satire, and they always fail. I think that this film is just a good. It's
Down the middle.
down the middle. It's not trying to be too epic. It's not trying to be too funny either. Because like the heartwarming like moments between characters, there's so much mood whiplash in this film where it's like the endearing moments are like full endearing, like gripping your seat about to cry. Where you're like, I didn't expect they would get this real this fast. But outside of that, I would give this movie a solid.
Why do we
92.
think fantasy movies suck?
Because fantasy sucks.
James stole my bit.
All right, that's a wrap.
I mean, James kind of summed it up.
Because think about it, right? Lord of the Rings. We've talked about this, James. Lord of the Rings came out 20 years ago.
Has it been 20 years, really?
Somebody doesn't watch our podcast,
I didn't watch
And,
Lord of the Rings when I didn't see the movies.
and it's 20 years later. The only thing we can compare it to is seasons 1 through 4 of Game of Thrones. Literally, that's the only thing we can compare it to.
The issue with fantasy is that nobody has picked up that you can have a high fantasy environment and not explain everything to death. Lord of the Rings works because it was the first of its kind, right? And I don't actually think it was the first of its kind, but it was the first like big established kind.
right.
And it was explained in a way that it's easy to digest. There's a lot of deep lore, but what you're given isn't necessarily what
Yeah.
is all in there, right?
It's not 3 chapters of the Shire until Frodo even pops up.
But people see the giant expanded lore. They're like, oh, look at how big this world
Yeah.
is. Look at all this extra stuff that there is. And they try to cram that into 3 books. And that's not all 3. And like the entirety of the Lord of the Rings lore is not within 3 books.
Yeah.
It's within 4.
The Sumerian.
Oh, I didn't know. I thought it was just the Hobbit and the 3. You know, like there's extra stuff out there that was established after the books came out. But new writers are like, I want to have this big epic fantasy world. It's gonna be so cool. I have this crazy magic system and how it works is X, Y, Z, and you don't need all that. Just stop. Just figure out the story. Figure out what the reader needs to know about the story. And I'm saying reader, you guys are film people, but I read books more.
Yeah.
Figure out what they need to know in order for the story to work, and only tell them that information. Anything else is superfluous. Put it in extras.
I concur because I feel like the approach to world building in books from the limited fantasy that I have read, because I'm honestly not that big of a fan of the genre.
Because it sucks.
Lord of the Rings and Malazan Book of the Fallen. Those are the only two that you need, in my opinion. But from what I have experienced and briefly have read, the approach to world building, or at least just exposition in general, is far more like how would I explain this? You know how like Christopher Nolan movies, people complain that it's just exposition,
Right.
And every time that the person like opens their mouth, it's just exposition,
Right.
You can get away with that in a fantasy book, and boy do they. But it's like, when you're trying to adapt that to a film, you can't do that.
Yeah.
But you also
Kind of need to.
you kind of need to. And so fantasy films, I feel, try to lean one way to the other, where if you don't explain anything at all, you end up with no lore whatsoever, because nobody's going to be interested in picking up the details that you don't emphasize. But if you over-explain everything, then you run the risk of honestly just creating plot holes a la the last few seasons of Game of Thrones, where it's like, oh yeah, she just forgot about these guys over here, and it's like, no, you guys forgot about it because you tried to throw everything at the wall, and now you're to blame for forgetting your own goddamn story.
You know, it's a really good example of that just crossed my mind. Completely different genres.
Yeah,
Dune.
Dune.
The book to movie adaptation. Because it's literally like the first 150 pages is just explaining the world. You're seeing it
Yeah.
through Paul's eyes, right? Because Paul is, being groomed to be the king or the emperor or whatever. The
Messiah.
Duke. Sorry, the Duke. So you're learning everything about the universe, but it's just like reading it. You're like, what the? Like, can we get to the good part? Whereas in the book, it's literally like, yo, here's this PDF. Just read up on it
Yeah,
on your
in
way
the
down to
movie.
the planet.
Yeah.
And it's like, perfect. That's all we need to know. We just need to know that, they have a God figure, and we think you're him. And also there's these people, bad people, that are going to kill you in like 20 pages.
But I also think part of the problem that a lot of fantasy film has is like when it comes to including backstory and lore, you really just have to emphasize something, and then you can kind of just back off and let it go. Great books do that all the time anyway. That's why, like you have things like the rule of threes, for example. But when it comes to just like trusting your audience to kind of pick up on those hidden connections, you don't have to go like super
in depth.
You don't have to go like full Hobbit movie and be like, no, we're going to make 3 movies out of this because I want to include everything and explain everything and even include characters who aren't even in the original book anyway. And it's like, all you did was make this more complicated for your audience who just want to watch people like hack and slash their way through a fantasy world, my guy.
It's so weird that The Hobbit Because it's Peter Jackson still, right?
Yeah, it's like
That's
the worst imitators of Lord of the Rings is Peter Jackson
It's like,
imitating.
my guy, you wrote the whole
Yeah.
like blueprint on how to adapt a book into a like literally
Yeah.
every adaptation past what you have made has followed your blueprint of
Yeah.
what to do and what not to do, and then you just somehow mucked it
Somehow you have lived long enough to see yourself become the villain.
up. It doesn't make any sense to me. It's so funny.
But James's point about just trusting your audience actually is one of the things that I really liked about the D&D movie was that obviously most of the stuff they talked about I knew about. I've read these books ad nauseum. I read them for fun because I'm a loser.
It's good reading
and
material.
Actually, they are. The lore is pretty cool. So I understood all this crap, right? But even if you didn't, they didn't feel like they needed to bash you over the head with it. They didn't
Yeah.
go like, oh, well, he's a sorcerer, which means that he has magic running through his veins from a bloodline. But he's a wild magic sorcerer, means that it appeared spontaneously throughout his. It's superfluous. I knew it, but it didn't make the film better. I wasn't like, oh, dude, yeah, of course he went a wild magic sorcerer over like a draconic bloodline. So there was like, who gives a shit? Like they didn't explain that the barbarian was a barbarian.
Yeah.
They just expect you
just
to
kinda
figure out
know.
that she gets mad during fighting and it makes her stronger because she screams.
Yeah.
They weren't like a paladin is a holy warrior dedicated to a virtue that they follow on their calling, and that gives them holy magic and powers, and they can smite their foe. They're just like, he's called a paladin. You can see he's dressed up in big armor, and then he makes his sword glow at some point, and you're like, cool.
They are pretty cool.
I mean, it goes back to the bardic inspiration thing, where it's like it exists as an element in the film, irregardless of if you recognize that or not.
Yeah.
Exactly.
It's just an added element, and then it's like it adds lore to it if you actually go and play D&D, and then or you play a bard at some point, and you're like, oh yeah, you can inspire people and make them feel good.
Yeah.
Where would you put it? You didn't answer.
Yeah, he did. He said
It was B.
Oh, B.
It's all
B.
B.
Okay.
You didn't answer.
You didn't answer.
Yeah, technically I didn't answer on the mic, but anybody who was watching saw me nod along and go, yeah, I agree. I don't know how much the mic's picking up my voice. But yeah, B tier, maybe like a B plus. I'm feeling generous because it was really funny and nostalgia
good
glasses.
time.
I was like, hee hee. There's that cool thing that I like when they were running forward in the maze and they ran into the gelatinous cube. I was like, hee hee cube. I know that. I also I don't know if you
There were
heard-
a lot of moments where I was like, I would do that.
Yeah. I don't know if you picked up on it. I don't think James ever pays attention to anything going around him during a movie. But I don't know if you saw it when the Displacer Beast came up, when they popped up and the tentacles came up. I was like, yes, let's go. And then like the Beast, I was like, yes, because I love Displacer Beasts. They're awesome. The only reason you haven't fought one is because you guys haven't been strong enough to fight one. You fought Blink Dogs,
not my
which is
fault.
like Displacer Lights.
We fought a big old fiery knight. I remember
That
that.
wasn't actually a creature. That was homebrew.
It was
that wasn't
badass.
from- yeah, I
It was
think it was
it's
awesome,
still my favorite boss fight,
dude. God,
Still my favorite boss
The amount
fight.
of time that I spent coming up with that opening sequence and practicing that, oh, it was so much fun. Also, just gushing about D&D crap. The fact that a black dragon was used as the first dragon you see was a black
Not a
dragon.
fire.
Not a fire, not a red dragon.
Yeah.
Very cool. I'm a big fan of black dragons because I like the fact that they spit acid. I always thought that was neat. They're also pricks. So I thought that was very cool. A lot of people probably didn't pick up on it because that dragon is shown for all of 50 frames.
If that.
The only reason I knew it was a black dragon was because it spat acid. I didn't
Yeah.
actually tell what color it was because it was flying too high and too fast. But yeah, anyway, what were we talking about? Fantasy. Fantasy sucks.
It's a good movie.
The movie was good.
Yeah.
The fantasy genre.
Would you watch it
needs to
again?
work. I would 100% watch it again.
Probably would.
If our other friends want to see it, I will go see it with them again because it was just a lot of fun. I think that's also ignoring the fact that this is a D&D film, ignoring the fact that it's supposed to be like drumming and things. It was genuinely just a fun movie, and I feel like we don't get those a whole lot anymore.
Yeah, I was thinking that
everything's
too.
got to be quippy and quirky and so artificially jokey, whereas this was just it was a good time. I came out, I was like, that was
I actually
fun.
think the opposite. Movies are too serious nowadays. And me and James have talked about this at length a lot of times. It's every movie, whether it's especially comedy, I think is getting ruined by this.
Oh,
where
yeah.
it's there just has to be a meaning behind it, or a theme, a heavy-handed theme in today's society. And it's yeah, that's nice and good, but it's also I just want to see people get beat up for 5 hours.
Want to watch some should go to the head of the brick. Like,
Which is
Especially-
why like the John Wick, the newer
Yeah.
one kind of was annoying because it was like all these people were like, oh, friendship and this and that. It's like, I don't care about that. Just show me John Wick shooting people in the face. Like,
it's about a dog.
yeah.
The dog does not feature in the.
Talk to them featured in the last 2 movies.
Yeah, that's
Stop
fair
thinking
enough.
about the job in John Wick 2. Pay attention.
So, all right, you have
Are we
been
going to our gripes?
talking about this rant for a while.
We're going to clear the air. This is Connor, ISO, LeBron James, fourth quarter, down by 5. We need a bucket.
So,
Clear
for
the
anyone who
room.
doesn't know, let me set the stage for you for a second. D&D used to be ran by Wizards of the Coast.
Still run by Wizard of the Coast.
Okay, well, Hasbro is in control of the distribution of it, and so they have been. The issue is not when they've done it. The issue is that they are currently trying to take control of a lot of the licensing. D&D has always had this policy of letting people use their content and even make money from it. Hasbro doesn't like that any longer. It's been a big uproar within the D&D community. Obviously. Understandably, because, I mean, some of the biggest things that pull people into the community, like Critical Role,
Watching
for
other
example,
people play it, yeah.
is watching other people play the game.
The only reason I was into it was because of NADPOD. I listened to like 40 episodes and I was like, I need somebody who knows how to play this.
Yeah.
And then
Now
Connor
Pod,
came into my life and I was
Dimension
like,
20,
ah!
Critical Role. It's like people like watching other people play D&D, and those people manage to make money off of it and profit from other people's enjoyment in the same way that Hasbro profits off of those people playing D&D to begin with.
Mm-hmm.
But Hasbro doesn't want that to happen any longer, especially because Critical Role
Fat L.
was also like
They do make a lot of money off of that.
not just that they make money, but like they actually like have collaborated with Wizards of the Coast, and you can buy their own individual campaigns that you can play with your friends.
Aren't some of the characters like canon? Right? Whatever that means in the D&D.
Yeah.
Oh, because I remember, one of the actors from like the first season, he stole the hand of Vecna, and it became like lore that
Oh.
that character stole the hand of Vecna.
Yeah, I mean, technically speaking, I believe Mercer's world is technically canon, but in that
and like
loose
Gunslinger,
sense,
his
that canon exists
archetype,
in
the
D&D.
Gunslinger.
Yeah, the Blood Hunter. Like you can use all those in actual like they're official D&D modules.
Right.
But like I said, it's
That's
very
crazy.
it's the loose sense that you can have canon in D&D because
Yeah.
there's so much there's
It's
like
also one of those things where like a DM can just be like, that doesn't exist in this world. And it's
there's
like, all right, fair enough.
In terms of like canon, there's like 8 worlds that D&D
Yeah.
stories happen in.
Sure.
So I mean, like, it just all over the place. It's the same way that like in Warhammer, your dudes are canon, and it's designed to be open ended so that they can be canon, but they're never going to show up. So like it is what it
Warhammer
is.
Pod win.
Literally anytime, I will sit here on this mic and rant for 3 hours about the Horus Heresy.
All right, Isaac, you want to read 73 books and catch up on them?
all of them yet.
I haven't even read all of them.
I got nothing to do.
You only need to read 3.
I'm unemployed. I ain't got nothing to do.
Yeah, you just need to read the first 3. Technically, Flight of the Einstein really helps, but everything else is irrelevant.
I would also recommend Gaunt's Ghost, but outside of that, I think you're pretty good.
The first Heretic, also very good. James, your turn.
I enjoyed the Space Wolves books too. You can buy the omnibus. They stopped selling them at Barnes and Noble.
on right now?
The Legion about the Alpha Legion.
Oh
Great
god, we're
books.
still going.
What? Dude, I have a list.
Oh lord.
Oh,
Haven't really good Tyranid books. Do those exist out there?
the good Tyranid books are books that aren't about the Tyranids. They just happen to have the Tyranids in them.
Guys, Dungeons and Dragons. That was a joke.
Anyway,
One game at a time. One tabletop game at a time.
I can bring props.
Science fiction is a good genre.
Yeah, we like science
I
fiction.
really do love science fiction. I could talk about that for a long time. Anyway, OGL and Hasbro stuff, right? Was that what you were
right.
talking about? Okay.
Yeah.
Ironically, not what I was going to rant about because that's been done to death. But yeah, no, it's it's greedy corporations.
We don't like Hasbro. Hasbro sucks.
It's greedy corporations being greedy corporations. To actually loop it back to 40K.
Did they
and
cancel?
Warhammer.
Didn't they cancel that, or are they still trying?
They
to
did,
do
yeah.
it?
They rolled it back because everybody and
Literally,
their mother
yeah.
was like, "We're not buying your products."
Yeah.
There was, I'm trying to think. I think 80% of the like online service they have, whatever the heck it's called, I can't think of the name right now.
Yeah, I know what you're talking about.
D&D Beyond, yeah. 80% of the users who were subscribed unsubscribed.
It's a lot of money.
And let me tell
That
you,
was
whatever
like
they thought they were
$10.
gonna make, they weren't gonna make that back.
Yeah, they lost a lot of money.
I don't think a lot of them have even come back.
I
So they really
wouldn't.
shot themselves in the foot.
Also, you can just use the free stuff online. Just
Shut up.
stuff online.
Make sure to buy your stuff legally.
No, I'm talking about like, you know,
There's no free resources anywhere. Shut up.
All right, maybe we shouldn't do a 40K podcast.
Connor's a bad influence.
James, I acquire all my goods for 40K legally.
Sure. Anyways,
I just photocopy.
No, I just happen to have friends online who like to share with me.
yeah, that way you have them
Anyway.
both online and offline.
So yeah, the initial like, are you sure you want me to rant about this right now thing was like, do you think this was a good introduction to D&D? So if we have nothing else to talk about with the movie, I can start.
Do we?
ranting
Is
about it.
this a good introduction to D&D?
Yeah. So no,
Okay.
and here's why.
Here's why.
And I've spent all day thinking about this, because I
long
knew it was
time.
going to come up.
It's a long time.
I think in terms of like, if you're like, hey, here's the lore, then yes, it's great. But you have to walk in, and if you're like, I'm going to introduce you, I'm going to show you this movie to introduce you to this game, you need to tell them, this is not what the game is like. This is a dramatization of a campaign.
But isn't that the point of a campaign? Is like it's like the whole attacking thing is
But
like,
it's-
yeah, you go and you're like, all right, I hit you with my axe. But it's
There
like
are-
in your mind, you're supposed to be like, oh, I fucking did.
I mean, there's an element of that, but this is basically the Matt Mercer effect, the movie, basically.
That was going to be my next comment, was I was going to explain the Matt Mercer effect. For those of you who don't know, I think both of you do, right?
Yes.
I'm just going to tell the audience.
that you don't like Matt Mercer.
No. I have nothing against Matt Mercer. He's a decent human being. I just don't really watch D&D podcasts because I don't find
Connor doesn't like Critical Role.
Um,
We'll say.
I was going to talk about the Matt Mercer effect, which is a very common nomenclature in the D&D community. Some people use it as a way to say that D&D is going downhill and we should all jump ship and it's garbage. But those are the same people that think that
What else are we gonna play?
anything new is bad. There's a ton of stuff.
Let's all go to generic universal role playing system.
Fate Core, gentlemen. I've talked about it before. We can play whenever you want.
Oh god.
I got this really fun Fire Emblem game system that I'm playing. So yeah, it's the idea that people have come, especially with 5e, with the introduction of D&D podcasts and D&D media. People are coming into the hobby expecting to see those types of games. The average person cannot be Matt Mercer.
But what is, for those who don't know, what is that type of game?
So
Explain it.
so like, you know how we're at like a table right now, and I'm looking at the camera for this.
Right.
You know, we have this table. I didn't bring up my props because I didn't think we were going to be live. I was expecting just audio.
Yeah.
So if we had props, I'd be doing prop stuff right
Sure.
now. I'm sorry. So when we do D&D, right, as you guys know, I have like little plastic tiles and stuff, right? Little wooden tiles. I have these mini figs from 10, 15 years ago whenever I started. And that's how we play the game, right? You guys don't have customized models. You guys, my stuff isn't customized to what we're doing. Half the time I'm coming up with it on the fly. I mean, it's all planned. You know, and I do voices obviously, but I don't do very good voices half the time. I know
part of
it's
the charm.
Yeah, it's part of the charm. But like, you know, sometimes some of my stuff's pretty good. You made a noise.
Agree to disagree. Let's
I
move on.
don't want to hear it from you, James. I don't want to hear it from Mr. Roleplays himself at the table. I could throw you under the bus right now, boy.
He's getting better as Billy Graham.
He's doing better, yeah. But Matt Mercer and a lot of these D&D podcasts are very high production things.
Right.
Most of the people that are playing are voice actors. And so on top of just being actors, obviously they're good at doing voices. They're good at playing a role. Most people aren't. This is not a slight at YouTube, by the way. This is just a genuine
I was gonna
comment.
say I'm not good at voice acting.
Well, I just meant also just being actors. Putting yourself in a role can be really difficult for a large portion of people. It's not a negative. I'm not like I'm better. It's just a genuine thing.
Yeah. A lot of newbies have that
I'm
problem.
talking. What do you got to say?
We only have one mic to share with you.
I know. What do you got, James? Go ahead. Take it away.
I can definitely say from my experience, because I got into D&D through Critical Role. But there's definitely a degree to which recognizing that stuff like that is basically professional production. And that those guys are all not just professional voice actors, but the amount of effort that they're putting into it goes beyond like what a casual person not just can do, but should be expected to do to begin with. And as fun as it is to create characters and think of cool, interesting backstories and the kind of way that you can play them at the table, you're not only not really expected to do that, or you don't have to do that, but you can't do it to the level that people on Critical Role do it at all, unless you yourself are also a professional voice actor and you had those chops.
It's also they also do it for entertainment to millions of people, so it's like they kind of have to put on a show. It's like to some degree where it's like they have to create dramatic tension.
And to that effect too, when it comes to somebody who isn't a dungeon master, but understands Matt Mercer's style, there is a preparedness to what he does, a professional quality of his eloquence, the kind of world building that he puts into it is at a level beyond what anyone should expect from their dungeon master when they go into it. But if you're watching Critical Role and you enjoy it, if you're new to the game, you might think, why wouldn't it be like this? Why shouldn't I expect that from my dungeon master or from my other players to role play to that degree? You'll find yourself at the table being the most annoying person there.
Yeah. That was him. Actually, no, you never really gave me crap for that. But yeah, I mean, James summed it up pretty well. That is the Matt Mercer effect. Effectively, new people coming in expecting this high quality production that is just not possible.
It's not a thing.
And also, like as James said, Matt Mercer's just a really damn good DM. Even if he didn't have this production value, his games would be incredible.
It's also like that's their jobs. Like, they treat it with a level beyond what any of us could ever hope to do. Just because, like, I don't know, we work 40 hours a week, like doing other stuff.
But there's also another sense to it too, where it's like not only is he a good DM, but it's his skills as a DM, where it's both the preparation he puts into it and what he can do in the moment. But also, since these guys are professional actors, basically, their sense of improv and storytelling is, for me, more so really where the Matt Mercer effect comes into play, because it's like a D&D movie will have a beginning and middle and end. Sure. And the campaign that you play with friends in real life is going to be a beginning and a middle that just goes on forever.
There's ends. I've had a...
Have you ever had a campaign end?
I have had 3 different campaigns actually have an ending.
Okay, that's good. That's good. Out of how many? Like 30?
Okay. How many of those are because they just stopped playing is the real question.
It's usually what happens.
It's a little bit hard to have a party. But
that's willing to hang out.
Yeah, that's willing to, not go on vacation all the time, Rebecca. She's never gonna watch this.
Don't ever tell her about this, because it's so funny that we're just flaming her without even her knowing.
Yeah. So going back to the question at hand, is this a good introduction? Same thing with like if I was going to show somebody Critical Role, I would be like, hey, go in with the mindset of this is at the highest peak.
Yeah.
What you can do. It is not achievable, but if you take this, if you dumb it down, that's what you're going to be looking at. Because again, going back to the conversation that I had way back about the fight choreography, marshals can't do anything that is shown in the movie. You can if you have an imagination and you're having fun with it.
Yeah.
But the stuff that the barbarian does, you feasibly just can't do. Straight up. It just doesn't work. Like she picks up all sorts of weapons and starts swinging and stuff. That's all improv weapons. Those do 1d4 damage. That's really low. You will not kill anything. It's not cool. It sucks. I wish it was better, but that's just the rules of the game. In a wizard versus martial fight, you lose.
Yeah.
If it's a high level wizard, you lose.
If you fight a dragon, you lose.
I
would know all too well.
I've taken down a dragon before.
Yeah, I was gonna say no. You can definitely fight dragons and win. I've done it multiple times. But But like, you know, so like if you have somebody come in and is like, oh, I want to be able to do that as a fighter, it's like, well, guess what? The closest you'll get to is you'll get to swing 8 times in a turn, which is cool if you consider like the actual logistics of
When
that.
you
That is
chain 'em.
swinging your sword 8 times within the span of less than a second.
Yeah.
That's not humanly possible. But like
It's cool.
the
Just to be like, oh, I just did 78 damage.
yeah,
You're like, what
you know,
the
like
hell?
you can quantify really cool, but also the wizard can drop meteors on you.
Yeah.
Time stop just screws you. Any hold person spell, which is a level 2 spell slot, will screw you because you're not going to have a good wisdom save. So it's one of those things. You know, if you see somebody who's like, wow, the druid's really cool, you get to be all sorts of animals. Guess what? They can only do that twice a day.
It's like a level 3 spell, isn't it? Or something like that.
It's
like
an
level
ability. It's a
3
class ability. Unless they're a level 20 wizard, they can't do that as much as she does.
Yeah.
Is it cool for the story? Yes. Do I think they should have made
I was
it?
gonna say, the sorcerer should have ran out of spell
Sorcerer
slots.
should have ran out of spell slots real quick.
It's like they get 4 a day.
Also, you can't wild magic surge a gravity well. That's not an
I
option.
don't remember when did he do
when he was doing the show and then like he flipped the gravity. That was wild magic surge.
Yeah.
Yeah, you can't do that. But also attuning to items isn't a fight with the item. You just hold the item for over an hour and it attunes to it.
Yeah.
It's not
Well,
a
they did
process.
that just because they needed conflict.
Yeah, well, that's what I mean. If
Yeah.
they made it closer to the game, the movie would not have been as good. I think, personally,
For sure.
the liberties they took were good.
Yeah.
It was a necessary thing to make the movie fun. But would I sit down and be like, you know, James, you're going to love this. This is exactly what D&D is like. No. No.
So what is a good example of D&D for the newbies?
There really isn't one. And that's what sucks. That's why I'm like, you have to take it's a necessary evil. Like, that's why I'm like, I don't actually have anything against Critical Role or Matt Mercer or whatever,
Right.
because it's a necessary, it gets people into the game.
Yeah.
It's, you know, it's, I'm not going to say evil because it's not evil, but it's a necessary thing to bring in new players. And new players are the lifeblood of any game. Whatever the old guard says, you freaking saucy bastards in 4chan can shut up. New players are fine.
Oh,
I don't
God.
care if they made Tieflings bad.
By the way, that tiefling should not have looked like that.
That's a different conversation. I actually,
That's like the one gripe I had about the movie.
I had an argument about this with somebody recently, where I was like, this is not an accurate 5th edition party because in 5e, because everybody watches Critical Role, nobody plays a human anymore.
Yeah.
There's one human per party usually, and that's rare. The fact that there were 2 and one of them, you know, like they had the half elf. You would have had a tiefling, you would have had an Aarakocra, you would have had at least a dragonborn, you would have had some other random weird race that's like
very
in one of the
upset.
extra books.
Very upset there wasn't a
I was
Dragonborn.
really mad. Yeah. I was glad that they showed the Dragonborn as like a prominent figure in the beginning. I was like, oh, Dragonborns, but then
Yeah.
they weren't anywhere else.
There were like
I
2
love
more.
Dragonborns. But that's a different gripe in of itself. There's no halflings. Why is the halfling just like a random thing that shows up? Why is it not a halfling player? Everybody loves halflings.
There's
I've never been in a party that didn't have a
there
short
was
person.
One dwarf.
One dwarf.
No gnomes.
Yeah. Well, I'm sure there was a gnome somewhere. They probably just thought it was a halfling. Well, no, one of the in the jail that was a gnome.
Oh, was it?
Yeah,
Huh.
yeah. You can tell because she looked a little bit more like haughty, and that's like a gnome and halfling. That's kind of the differentiating. Besides like actual height values, gnomes are taller. But where was I going with this? Mercer effect, right?
We were talking about Mercer effect and how you hate it.
and so yeah, the best way to introduce somebody into D&D is to just play D&D.
Yeah.
Because like everybody plays different. And I think that's one of the more beautiful things about this game is that no 2 sessions are alike, no 2 campaigns are alike.
Oh, we know that.
As long as even if within like 2 campaigns run by the same DM will
Yeah.
be vastly different
Yeah.
depending on what's talked about beforehand, depending on what people want, you know, depending on like what party composition there is. Things can be completely different, and that's really cool.
Even just encounter to encounter is like
Exactly, yeah. As you
completely
learn your characters and stuff, encounter can change. You know, it's a very moldable medium, which is what's really cool about it, and also makes it really freaking hard to bring people into the hobby.
Yeah.
Along with the fact that you have to role play. That wasn't a slight at you. Just again, it's a common
James has
gripe.
like 5 campaigns under his belt. He must be doing something right.
It's a common gripe that I have played in many a game with new players. Every new player has issues with it unless they're literal theater kids. And even then, those kids weren't always that good at it.
I mean, they're theater kids for a reason.
True. Based.
Yeah, I said it.
Honestly, in my experience, one of the things that was most difficult to get into D&D or to actually play it for the first time was the role-playing aspect, where it was like, it's cool to make characters, but I don't know if I'm not going to do voices for them. I'm not going to act like them or anything like
Because
that.
you can't. You have to be different than
Yeah.
For it to be fun, right? You have to not play yourself.
There's an extent to which, because what I did for the longest time was just make my characters basically
You.
me.
I mean, basically.
It was literally like, "Where's James? Oh, he's reading. God damn it! I want to go do something cool."
I was doing something cool.
We'd be trying to talk to somebody and he would interrupt. You know how it is.
Yes.
But there's an element of that actually when I was approaching the game, I was thinking, how do I want to play? Because I can't recreate what I saw done on Critical Role, not just because they're professionals, but it's because in a way, that's how I played the game. And it's there's an extent to which you have to approach the game and accept that there's an element of role playing that has to be done. At the same time, though, it's open-ended enough that you can honestly just play yourself and kind of get away with it. Mm-hmm. You'll be the most annoying person at the table.
True.
Don't agree with that, but
Holding my tongue.
my family watches this podcast, Connor. I have to keep appearances. But
I'm here, aren't I?
It's okay. The new campaign's a lot more fun.
Yeah.
The 2 times we've played it.
I know the 2 times we
The
played.
2 times out of 3 months.
I'll say
we
that
played
though. You brought this up too about the idea that the movie would end with people being like, "All right, when can we see each other again?" And then nobody is available to see each other ever again.
it. New campaign.
Yep.
The
The
new
real
movie is just a different campaign with the same
real
characters.
real villain of D&D is scheduling.
True.
It's funny.
But honestly, I'm a little more sympathetic to the movie. I think that if somebody wanted to get into D&D, showing them something like Critical Role or this film, obviously with the caveat that it's not going to be like that, but here's an idea of what's possible that you can do in it. And to an extent, if you want to do something like that, then by all means, play the game. Because it's yeah, I liked the world building that Matt Mercer had built in. I liked the comedy that they had back and forth. That's my favorite part of the game is the actual fun of making dumb jokes in the fantasy world. You know?
My favorite bit is still referencing real world stuff.
Yeah.
In a fantasy world. And Connor just getting pissed at me
Yeah.
no, McDonald's does not exist. It's it fucking does. I just said it does.
I'll say this, at least stuff like Critical Role
Still my
and the
favorite bit.
D&D movie go as far as to try to portray cohesive storytelling and cohesion between team members instead of just if they wanted to make an actual realistic depiction of what it's like to play D&D in real life, the movie would just be them murder hoboing around.
just everybody yelling at each other.
Yeah. Play the sorcerer
No, you
doesn't
go talk
cast.
to the dragon. No, you go talk to the dragon.
I was gonna say the fact that nobody goes, "All right, guys, I'm gonna cast Fireball," and everybody stands back.
Yeah, I mean,
That would have been a good.
yeah, I mean, if it was going to be really accurate D&D, it would have been way different. This is, like I said, a dramatization of a story of good players. Again, this isn't a slight. I'm just you guys are fun. I just want to keep clarifying because I'm making I'm putting a lot of vehement behind this. I have bad stories with D&D. I've been playing this game for 13 to 14 years now.
You're gonna have that.
You guys
gonna
are
have
easily mid-tier compared to some
That's
of the crap
good
I've
with
been
me.
through.
I'll take that.
We only had one argument about reading the book, and you guys started to read the book. So honestly, that's a benefit.
I still don't know how to read.
And to be fair, you guys haven't really read the book yet, but whatever. I digress. We're getting into party drama. Yeah, it's one of those things where and I also I will say this: I enjoy that James, you are defending the Mercer effect even though none of us have said that we dislike it. But it's just
Well, you every time we bring up Matthew Mercer, you're like,
well, it's just like I've played with a lot of people who like idolize him.
yeah,
And even he's like, this is not the standard you should be holding this to. This is for production. It's for fun. But like I've played with a lot of people who are like trying to be the next Critical Role, and it's
also,
like,
like-
just it's a game to have fun with your friends.
yeah. I was gonna say
man.
this is a hobby.
Yeah, like come on.
it's just a cool time to like spend time with friends and get drunk.
Or
or
it's like,
whatever.
yes, I could crunch numbers in this book and all the other books to make it so that I am an unkillable demigod and I can pump out 100 damage around. It's super easy.
It's just not fun.
It's not fun. Yeah.
No.
Why do you got to take it so seriously? It's a game about having fun with your friends. The best kind of D&D is when you are beer and chipsing a game and you are sitting there around the table. Not everybody's bevved, but like everybody's having a good time.
I
Like
have
you
a
got,
good time.
you're having a little bit of
Hey,
snack.
man, at least I know how to do my attack rolls.
A
That's
little
all I'm
bit
gonna
of-
say. I'll be drunk and I still know how to do it.
Having a pizza. Everybody's having having just a little laugh. You're not taking it super seriously. Those are the best kind of games. Which is what I really enjoyed about this film as well, is that I feel like it captured that group of people going on an adventure.
Just a fun time.
It's not always going to be serious. There's going to be serious moments, and you have to be able to handle those serious moments. That's where the role-playing part comes in. But also, it's just goofy. You're a bunch of people staring death in the face. You're going to laugh about it, and stuff. And like, it is what it is. You got to go out and you got to play the game. If you want to know what D&D is like, you have to play D&D. I cannot sit here and accurately describe every campaign that I have been a part of because each one is such a unique experience.
That's what makes it cool.
And I've played, like I said, I played this game for a long time. I have been in 5th edition alone in 10 plus campaigns, most of which have gone on over a year long.
Ours would have been a year long.
I'm
The
sorry.
first one.
I learned how to play the game. So like, obviously, like that's why I'm here. By the way, if it hasn't been clarified, I'm here because I know a lot more about this game than these two do. He's not wrong.
Connor actually knows nothing about D&D.
No, I'm just talking out of my ass. I read this book today. I'm really just trying to figure it out.
He rented it from the library.
Definitely didn't bring the 4th edition handbooks to school to read at school because I was that much of a loser. It's a true story.
Understandable.
Yeah, no, I would read the Monster Manual at lunch. But
Might have made fun of you a time or two.
believe me, I got bullied. I don't
Right,
regret it.
I would
but
definitely
I got bullied for it. Yeah, I mean, there's no better teacher than to play the game. Just expect it to go poorly. And I don't mean that in like a this game sucks kind of way, as in like you're not going to get it right the first time.
Yeah.
And I will say this as another gripe about stuff that people do. It's a collaborative story. You don't write it by yourself. There are however many other people you have at the table, and you're all writing it together.
Yeah. Yeah.
Unironically, that's one of those things where I was first getting into D&D, and I was like, I would be a good DM, and then I immediately realized, like, no, I can't make up stuff on the fly. I would force everybody to stick to script, and that's just not.
Oh,
how
you want to
do
go
it.
into that hole, into that cave? Yeah, that cave
blocked,
just
yeah.
got blocked.
Yeah, but that's also part of the Matt Mercer effect, where it's like when you see somebody do that so well that you can't tell the difference between what was planned and what was made up on the spot. You just assume that everything was planned to begin with, and it's like nobody can count for every outcome, especially when you're playing D&D.
With you guys.
Yeah, flashbacks to Oi fireballing a plot point. But
Gang. I did play with a guy one time. He like had planned it out pretty well because we did a one shot, and he like planned it out, and then like something went left in the first encounter. Something went left, and he's like, "Fuck!" I had to throw all of that out. I was like, "Oh my god!"
Flashback.
We had it was like a 6-hour session. He's just like, "I just made it all up on the fly." I was like, "Whoa!"
Flashback to you guys killing robbing a poor boat lady, which led to an entire arc in our
She was
campaign.
asking for it. I would defend myself on that one. She
that
was
led to
asking for it. She put the hit out on me first.
like Ace Attorney style courtroom sequence.
All I'm saying is when somebody rejects you, you don't put a hit out on them because then you get your get back.
You
That's
stole
all
the
I'm saying.
boat.
Yeah, you come talk to me like a person, not put out a hit in the middle of the night.
Taking your mics
When
away.
I was in the middle of being drunk.
We're not getting into this.
It was
At
a
city,
night
that
of drinking.
courtroom.
I was having a great time. We just got back. We were having a
Only
and-
one person got convicted, and it wasn't you.
Yeah, I know.
Either way. So why are you complaining?
The person who
I'm
went
not,
to jail
but-
wasn't the person who stole the boat.
But Connor gets very mad that I attacked her, and it's like no.
I'm not mad that you attacked her. If anything, it was a very funny sequence.
It was pretty funny that I pulled a John Dillinger and just walked into the courtroom.
But no, if there's one thing that I could say to anybody planning to go in as a DM, specifically as a DM, you are going to improv. Like James said, you cannot prep for any and all outcomes. It's just not humanly possible, especially if you're friends with players who like to do crazy stuff.
Me, I like.
And I'm not saying that as again, not a negative. Every player that I've played with likes to do crazy stuff. It's fun. That's part of the fun of the game.
How far can you take the mechanics?
Yeah, how far can you take the mechanics? How far can you make your DM think? Which is part of the fun IMO as a DM is to immediately just be like, uh-oh, I gotta improv the crap out of this. In my other campaign that I play, the main villain was entirely improved. I was gonna set up the arc for the next the next session, and they got there really fast.
Nice.
And I was like, we've only been playing for 30 minutes. I can't be like, cool, session's over, guys. Like, good time. See you in 2 weeks. I was like, I gotta just figure this shit out. And so I did. And it's been the most fun they've had is that this random character that I just pulled out of my ass. Like, a lot of stuff that's happened with you guys, I won't say all of it, to not pull back the curtain.
I can say the first one,
Go on.
the first campaign.
Oh, yeah. Actually, a
I
lot
don't
of that
think,
was...
I don't think we're gonna go back to that.
a large number of that was planned because I had the book. Because
Yeah.
we were doing a module to get them set up and make it easier for myself. But there was actually a good portion of that where I was just like pulling it out and just running on the fly just because I was like, oh.
Fair enough.
They may or may not have had a fire that I've
We
kept
may
track
or may
of.
not have committed a war crime.
They
At least twice, I think, by my count.
yeah. They firebombed an entire forest. It's still burning, by the way. I stopped keeping track of it because we're not in that campaign, but I kept track
Oh,
of
that
it
whole
for a couple
continent's
months.
just gone.
And yeah. You guys can't see the map, but
We stopped the undead problem at least.
True.
Just
For a time being.
there's just no living.
Yeah. But yeah, be ready to improv. Players, just give your DM the benefit of the doubt. What?
Would you see a second movie?
Yeah.
They made this a sequel. Well, they probably will make.
I
a
will
sequel.
say I wouldn't necessarily want to see a sequel. I think those characters have done their part. I don't really know like what they would do without it just like completely being new.
Yeah.
Which at that point,
So you would
why
rather
bother
see new
having-
characters?
I'd like to see something different. Yeah. But I mean, it's the world of D&D.
Yeah.
They left everything open ended in terms of like here's all the stuff that we talked about.
There goes the camera.
Sick. I can start.
No, this is still recording.
Well, I meant like I can start like making better hand motions.
Oh, okay.
But you know, like they can what's I'm looking for?
Camera always dies so sudden. I don't know what's up.
I mean, it's been flashing for a while. I just didn't know what it meant. Probably should have told you guys that.
I mean, it's not like we can do anything anyways.
You guys don't? Wow, really? It does not feel that long.
All right, James. Over under. How much money do you think this movie made opening weekend?
What was its budget?
Good question.
Not high enough.
150 million.
I would say that this probably made around 90 million.
As of now? Or
Opening
just
weekend.
Opening weekend?
Yeah.
Not even close, baby.
Not even close. 190 million.
Try a third of that. 35, 37 opening weekend. As of
Not even close in the other direction.
yeah.
Lower. God dang.
37 opening weekend. 45. Well, I guess
Still
how does this
better
work?
than Shazam
Okay,
2.
so 37. I'm assuming total opening weekend. 45 domestic as of now. 37 international. 82.7 worldwide.
I mean, it's D&D. It's a niche
That's what I was thinking. I was like, this is a very niche movie. Why would they spend $150 million? I
That's
have
just
to
where visual
imagine.
effects are at
I
right
have
now.
to imagine 100 of that was just the cast.
I think most of it was
50 of
probably
that, sorry, 50 of that was
The
just the
amount of
cast.
practical effects sets in this film was honestly impressive. I feel like that's where there were so many scenes where the sets that they were in alone. I was like, man, they had to build that. You rarely see that nowadays, where you're like, God, they built that set. That's crazy.
It's crazy.
Honestly, I think that most of it went into the production design. Connor, do you have something to say?
This point kind of moved on, but I was like, I guarantee you it lost money because it has D&D stapled across the top, and people think that's a nerd thing. As much as it's not anymore, I know a lot of people who aren't stereotypical nerds who play this game. But I guarantee the branding of D&D cost this film a fair number of things, especially just like from the religious tribes. It's not as big a deal anymore.
I think it's also
still,
one of those things where it's like, hey, babe, you want to go see the Dungeons and Dragons movie? It's like,
right? Yeah,
get the fuck out of my face.
dude. I've known women where I've said I play D&D and they're like, cool, I'm not talking to you anymore. I'm like, it. All right.
All right, Warhammer podcast with.
Don't even get me started on the display cases that I have that have kept me from getting.
I wonder if we will get a second. I feel like we won't. If it hasn't made that
I
much
agree
money.
that if they do a sequel, it would have to be different characters, possibly even maybe in the same world, but I could see them doing a completely different world, completely different characters, everything like that. Honestly, random tangential point I was gonna make. We've spoken a lot about my play style during this game.
You want to talk about?
Not about Isaac's, but I just want to
He wants to set the record straight.
set the record straight. The Red Wizards were my favorite part of this movie. They're the coolest characters.
They are pretty cool.
I know that's fairly in line with what I've done in the past, but I just want to say those were pretty good characters, and I'd like to see more of those in the future.
As his DM, James is not a bad player. I just like to give him crap because that's what our friendship is like.
I just like a certain type of character.
Yeah, he's a very much, and I say this as a man who's also read his writing. He has an archetype. It's not a bad one, but it's an obvious one. And he sticks with it through detriment. Be damned. Love you to death, buddy.
Hey man, if you're gonna do one thing, do it well. Don't have any comments on that. You're not taking the mic back.
What do you mean? He said this is about me today.
All right, so overall,
Good. Fun.
solid movie.
Very fun. to
Very
watch.
funny.
Very funny.
I
I was laughing a lot more than I thought I would.
Yeah, you guys were laughing a lot more than I thought you guys would too. Good action. Honestly, if you just want a solid fantasy film, we haven't had one in a while. I would honestly recommend this one.
Or just like ever.
Go in knowing
Post 2003.
Yeah,
Post 2005.
just go in knowing that it's like a action comedy and not
Yeah.
trying to be like a super serious. Doesn't take itself seriously
Not too
in a
serious.
good way.
Yeah, yeah.
Though. Not in the Marvel kind of way.
Because even the serious stuff is like cliche. Serious. Like,
Yeah.
Dad, I hate you. It's like, okay, I've seen this before.
Yeah, but honestly, taking something that people have, taking those kind of generic story structures and archetypes and putting them in D&D, I think works to mold kind of the lore around that, which is why it comes across so well. So, solid B around the table.
Oh, yeah. All right, Connor, any last words for the
Connor,
folks?
any last words?
Be kind to your DMs. DMs, be kind to your players. Players, learn how to push your DMs on stuff. DMs, learn how to say no. Also, remember that you're God. So if you want something to happen, it's entirely up to you. Players can't stop you. Players, remember that you are parlaying with God.
Why are you still looking at the camera?
I don't know, just like I'm looking in the mid distance.
He's speaking to the American citizens.
Yeah. I'm hoping that like in some vestiges of this battery, it'll pick up the hard stare that I'm sending to the world at large.
This is how Connor announces his presidency.
Yeah.
His presidential campaign.
Connor Murphy for what presidential year is it? 2026?
26, right? No, 24.
Oh shit, that's next year, huh?
That's next year.
Oh god. Boy, those go fast, don't they? Connor Murphy 2024.
That's gonna be fun.
Stay in school, don't do drugs, eat your teeth.
All right, we're out of here.
That'll be it.
He's starting to
Try
say
to
things.
think. Yeah, no, I don't really have anything else.
Thanks, guys, for this week.
Thanks for having me, guys.
I think we just killed. I think James is dying.
If anybody wants to hear any about my other topics, Dark Souls, Warhammer.
Oh God! All right, that's enough out of you. You can't
if
plug on my podcast.
You don't even
can't
have
plug
social
on
media.
my podcast.
Get
All
outta
right,
here.
guys, we're out of here. We'll see you guys for the Mario movie next week. Bye.